As uplifting as it is to hear praise for God's law and to be inspired by the commitment and devotion that we see in Psalm 119, I wonder if there's a part of you, as there is a part of me, that feels like loving law, even God's law, feels foreign, out of reach, out of touch, unrelatable. Obeying decrees with my whole heart, I open my mouth and pant. I long for your commandments. Please. Being disciplined enough to do the right thing is one thing, but to enjoy it, why does this seem just a little bit suspicious? It just seems like there's a deep cultural disconnect between what we experience as following God's guidance and instruction for us, which often feels like ho-hum obligation and duty, and Psalm 119's view of law as joyful opportunity that motivates and makes us really excited to get out of bed every morning, to praise and honor God with our whole being and to love every second of it. Is this something we are to aspire to? Is this something that was meant for the Hebrew people to aspire to? Was it lofty then, as much as it sounds lofty now? Or did loving the ways of the divine come more naturally to these ancient people of God? And why do some of the most resonant parts of this text today seem like the very last portion of it? My eyes shed streams of tears because people do not keep your law. And yet when we hear that, do we think of ourselves among those who do not keep your law? I think if we're honest, we agree with this statement. And it feels good to say because it's so easy to imagine the ways in which others aren't keeping the law. How quick we are to point fingers at someone else. Whether we like it or not, our understanding of God's law is related to our experience of civil law. This complicates things because sometimes our laws and policies support love of neighbor, and other times they do not. We have a handful of attorneys in this parish. I imagine they would say that they work hard so that the laws of this land and the interpretation of them would reflect the values of justice and equity for all found in God's law. We know that's not a given, and that we're all called to that kind of discernment. I saw a YouTube short video this week from CNN in which Sister Letitia Ugbuja, a registered nurse at her local hospital, was given a chance to speak publicly about her recent release from federal custody. Originally from Nigeria, Sister Letty, as she is called, was detained by authorities on June 28th in Texas while walking to Sunday Mass. According to her attorney, she has legal protections and has complied with all immigration conditions. But her asylum application was denied in 2019. There are many others in this same situation, she said in the video. People who have been given some form of protection under our laws, who have followed every rule asked of them, and who still live with uncertainty. She is expected to report back to authorities on Tuesday. Surely many are praying that our laws reflect welcoming the stranger, one of the highest values in God's law. I'm also reminded of the powerful book, The Color of Law, which tells the sad and true story of how in the 1950s, as metro areas of America's cities, like my hometown of Chicago, sprawled into suburbs, racism was legislated and codified into law through housing agencies and urban planning. Black and brown people were pushed into less desirable neighborhoods, and then highways were routed through those areas, making them noisy and dangerous and lowering property values even further. The legacy of these laws has a tight grip on this country still. Who holds the law holds power. May God grant us the will to change and make our world a place for all to flourish. And may God give us the desire and passion of the psalmist to make that possible. We can also be thankful with the passion of the psalmist that God's law never needs revision. It is forever and always trustworthy and true. It is good news for all. We never have to worry that God's law privileges some and oppresses others, because God's law upholds and defends the life of all people and of all creation. God's law shows us the path to loving God and loving our neighbor. And it shows us the relationship between those things when we do what the law asks of us. Loving our neighbor is loving God. At Lemonade on the Lawn last week, I had a delightful conversation with a soon-to-be WMU engineering student and his dad, a former WMU engineering student, about math. And as a person who generally steers clear of numbers, I appreciated their insight and enthusiasm about math being a kind of universal language and also like a background blueprint, a framework for how we experience our world. Math is both small, 0 plus 1 equals 1, and also unfathomably big. It is concrete and conceptual. It is tangible and abstract. Similarly, we can talk about individual commandments as being God's law, and also the whole of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. We can talk about those also as God's law. You can study one facet of math, like statistics or accounting, and other facets of it like physics or geometry. And if you are ambitious enough to master those individually, you could also learn that they are part of the same whole, and you could learn how they fit together into a system. And this is fun for some people. The first 5 commandments given to Moses on stone tablets up on the mountain, and that required a reprint because he was so mad at the people when he saw what they were up to that he threw them down and broke them, as an aside, are about how we relate to God. The second 5 are about how we relate to one another. The second giving of the law, which is the version that Jewish people still cherish today, is the Shema, found in Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 through 24. Shema means hear in biblical Hebrew. And that's exactly how this version starts. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Or in other versions, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. It goes on, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. Keep these words in your heart. Recite them. Talk about them. Bind them to yourselves and to your doorposts, says the text. This second giving of the law is more personal. It always feels to me like God is saying, like a holy, omnipotent choir director, okay, now once more with feeling. It tells why, and it acknowledges relationship. And don't you think it also tells us something about God as our parent? That when we needed a reminder, God didn't threaten or condemn to make us really listen. This version of the giving of the law is like God sitting us down on God's lap and explaining to us in a soft and gentle voice, arms wrapped around us, why it's important to share or to tell the truth. Whether we think of the law as one cohesive system or as an individual set of instructions for walking the way, like 1 + 1 or like astrophysics, one thing is clear and cause for joy and exuberance. The law is how God says to every person, I love you.